our back to school series. Welcome back. And if you're new here, we are currently doing back to school webinars. So thank you for your time in joining us. Today, as DJ mentioned, we are covering the McGraw Hill program called Glencoe Math. My name is Sarah Shuja and I'm a marketing manager at McGraw Hill. We're going to be talking about Glencoe Math, which is for grades 6 to 12. Yes, Asifa, this webinar covers grades 6 to 12. And this is regarding Glencoe Math. Again, I just repeat. So in this session, we are just going to guide you how you can better utilize Glencoe Math in your classrooms by using the digital planning tools and the interactive resources. DJ is going to talk to you all about that. So this webinar is just focused on that and how you can use this in your classroom. My colleague Hamad and I are here to support you. If you have any questions or if you face any technical difficulties, Hamad Khilji is the head of marketing at McGraw Hill. And like I said, we're here to support you in the background. If you have any trouble, just ask us a question. Unfortunately, Shelly was not able to join us today, but DJ West has kindly stepped forward to cover this session. Thank you so much, DJ, for being here today with us.
Thank you, Sharish. I'm glad to be here with you.
Thank you so much. We're more than thrilled and excited to know more about this. And just 2 slides about housekeeping. So we just want to ensure that you do want to recommend close down any high networking app like Netflix, YouTube, because it usually affects the bandwidth of your webinar. You have the opportunity for Q&A, so ask us that question. We do want to keep this webinar as engaging, as interactive as possible. So ask a question to DJ, just write that in the chat. If you can engage in the chat box or pop the question in the Q&A. They're both located on the right side. There is a to, and then there's a drop down. If you can just click on that and select everyone, it might say host and panelist right now, but if you select it to everyone, then you can interact with each other and your peers can see your comments and questions. You will be getting the recording of this webinar via email, so we will be sharing that with you. And please feel free to share that recording with your colleagues who missed this session, or if you have anyone else who wants to have or if you want to look back at that recording, we will be sharing that link with you. The certificate of participation will also be emailed to you for attendees who have attended the live webinar. So keep an eye out and you will be getting that shortly as well. Like I said before, there's the chat box, there's a Q&A box, both on the right side. You can use the Q&A box to ask any questions, whether it's technical or regarding the presentation, or you can use the chat box for any comments as well. And I guess that's all from my side for now. Unless you have any questions for me, I'm happy to pass over to DJ. I will stop sharing my screen. Thank you so much, everyone, and we hope you find this session very useful.
I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to look today specifically at Glencoe Math and Glencoe Aga. So the reason I differentiate of our middle grades program, and there is a pre-calculus book as well. One thing to remember, it comes in 2 different copyrights. So there's a 2014 and a 2018. The things we're going to look at today go with both of those. So one thing I want to start out with right at the beginning, we have a short time together today. We're going to spend out looking at the digital resources, but after we get done, there are going to be things that you say, I remember that DJ talked about this and showed us the assessment, but I don't remember where to find it. Or during the session, we looked at the e-tools, but I don't remember where to find the e-toolkit. And there's a couple things that you ought to be very, very familiar with. So if you're jotting things down, first part, I would really like you to make your account. It says right here, need help. If you click open that need help menu, that is going to take you to our digital technical support. Now, for those of you that are math coaches or principals, even for you as a teacher, this is a really helpful site. And one thing I want you to know, this is generic. It's not specifically about the math program. It's about the platform in general. So you're going to notice getting started. If you're an administrator and you have to set up your teachers or your students, how to set up licenses and reporting, that allows you to go in and use those resources. You're also going to notice some parent resources. If you're using Google Classroom, there's some resources for that, but a whole variety of materials. You can go up here and search Glencoe Math, and there will be a variety of resources for you. So that technical support menu, and I'm going to click back right here, right on my login screen at the bottom, it's going to say need help. Now I'm going to log in. And I'm actually going into the middle grades right now. We're going to switch back and forth today. So for my high school teachers, don't feel left out. We're going to bounce back and forth between the programs. The other thing I will mention before I go into the actual course, the technology or the platform works exactly the same from course 1 all the way through pre-calculus. So anything we look at while we're in Glencoe Math, the technology or the platform works exactly the same way. What do I mean by that? How to assign work, where the e-toolkit, how to find your resources, all those things are going to be the same. So I'm going to click into Glencoe Math. I'm going to go into, let's go into course 2. Let's jump in the middle. You're going to see as I scroll down, course 3 and then accelerated. And that accelerated is meant for your students to take course 1 in 6th grade. But then in 7th grade, if they're an advanced student, they could take accelerated. And then in 8th grade, they would do algebra 1, whereas the normal course is 1, 2, and 3. So let's go in course 2. And I'm going in from the teacher side. And that brings me to my main screen. Now, when I go to my main screen, the first time I log in, it's going to take me to this little drop-down menu here. And if I open this up, you're going to see implementation support, professional development. And that's the one we want to stop at just for a second. This is the second place to actually get a whole series of help resources. So if I click in on implementation resources, you notice standards for mathematical practices, transforming your classroom, and I have a Dynazyke library video. So I'm going to actually, instead of just clicking right there, I'm going to take you over to this menu up at the top where it says menu. And I'm going to click on that. And you're going to see as you scroll down through this menu, class management, resources, assignments. Okay. If I scroll on down, I'm going to see plan and present. These are teacher tools, assessment, Learn Smart, we'll talk about today, professional development. I'm going to click in there. And this is a more comprehensive list than what I saw in that initial screen. So notice what I have here. I want to go back and review something. Well, I have a quick start course here. I also have an implementation course. These are just online courses you can go in and take. And you're going to notice then as I scroll down, okay, there's a Glencoe Math digital walkthrough, parts 1, 2, and 3, getting parents involved, and my Sketchpad support, my foldable videos. My internet's a little bit unstable, so if you don't mind, I'm going to turn my video off for a bit. But when I go into admin support, I have some resources there, instructional videos that I can jump into and take a look. But all of those are in my professional development. And at any point in time, I can go in and look at the resources that are part of this. One other thing I want to show you about your screen, and this is true with Glencoe Math, and it's also true with Glencoe AGA, is I can determine how many resources I look at one time. Okay? So just make sure that you know implementation support. I can go in as an admin and look at those resources, and I've got some different things in there available for me. Sketchpad is the digital or the dynamic modeling software in the program, but all of those available for you. Whenever you get into the screen, one thing you'll notice too is that you're able to get back to your home page by simply clicking on the math. So when I click on that word, it takes me back to my home page. Now on your dashboard, again, regardless of the course you're in, you have a few things available for you. You can click here and you can actually use this menu to decide what you want to look at in a course. So here you're going to notice my Mathematical Practices Handbook, units, and chapters. So I'm going to click on Mathematical Practices Handbook. Then what it does is it brings up the chapter overview and all of the lessons that are inside of that Math Practice Handbook. By the way, there are two different ways to use the Math Practice Handbook. Again, if you're jotting things down, I would jot this one down. You can use it up front at the beginning of the year, or you can space it out through the year, because these are just deep dives into each of the mathematical practices. And it's a great way to do one every 2 or 3 weeks and then come back and review. So I'm going to click on Construct an Argument. And what happens when I do that, my little tray right here jumps over to the resources that are in that lesson. So I'm in Mathematical Practices Lesson 3. I have some vocabulary support and I have my e-toolkit that I could jump into from here. If I scroll down a little bit, you have your calendar on your page, any lesson plans you have scheduled, that will actually put the streaming presentation right on your home page. Do I have any assignments due? Do I have any Learn Smart assignments due? Okay, and are there any other events that I put on my calendar? So anything that I assign out will be here for both you and your student, and your lesson plans will be right here. We'll take a look at that to keep your presentation on your home page. And then the final thing on this page is the button that says ebook. And that's where we're going to go now. We're going to click into the ebook. It is a digital version of the student book. In the high school courses, you also have the teacher book as part of this. And it is a really nice resource for two different things. Now, one thing I want to point out to you, when this book opened up, it opened up to the lesson that I chose on the menu of my dashboard. So I was in Mathematical Practices, Construct an Argument. Okay, so it took me directly to that page. And then unless I change that, it remembers where I opened the ebook at. And that's very important for your students. If they're in Chapter 5, Lesson 3, next time they click on their book, they'll be in Chapter 5, Lesson 3. So I'm going to scroll over just a little bit. This is that focus on mathematical practices. Just remember, you can use it at the beginning of the year, or you can spread them out. Modeling with math. It's got some your turn, find it in the book. So they're going to do a little bit of scavenger hunt, just helping them understand the practices that we use to do math. So modeling with mathematics. Now, when I'm in the ebook, and again, doesn't matter what course you're in, I can click up at the top and I have that drop-down menu. And when I do, here is my whole table of contents. So I can look at each of my lessons. These are organized by domain in math. So ratios, proportional reasonings, percent, integers, rational numbers, expressions, equations, geometric figures, measuring figures. So this is the geometry domain, probability and statistics domain, and so on. And there is a handbook at the end for the students. If I click open, I will actually see the parts of that chapter and every single lesson in that chapter. Now, one thing I want to point out for you here just a minute. And again, it's a really nice thing to jot down if you're writing things down. In Glencoe Math, especially in the middle grades, you have 3 types of lessons. So we're going to have an opener in the chapter. We'll take a look at that. But you're going to have, first of all, inquiry lessons. Notice here it's called an inquiry lab. These are exploratory lessons for the student. They are spaced throughout the lesson where it makes sense. Sometimes in algebra geometry, these could be scientific calculator labs, but really what it does, it gives the students a chance to play around with the concepts to develop conceptual understanding. Then we have what I would call a more traditional lesson. This is where we're going to lay out the math they've been exploring in the inquiry lab. And then you'll find halfway through the lesson, halfway through the chapter, a problem-solving investigation. There is a mid-chapter check, which is an assessment. If I scroll down through the rest of this chapter, I've got another inquiry lab, 4 more, teaching lessons, another inquiry lab, and then we end every chapter with a 21st century career. So this wraps up the chapter, but I'm going to go back to the beginning of the chapter and let's walk quickly through what you're going to see. We're going to go to percents. Let this open up. So in percents right here, a couple things you'll see on the screen real quickly. Every chapter starts with an essential question. Same all the way through Algebra 2 and pre-calculus. Secondly, my standards. And 3, there is always a connection to math in the real world. You can take that, actually use it as an introduction. In Glencoe math, it's a consumable book. High school math, it's a hardbound book. But you're going to notice there's a foldable that goes along with this lesson that they could use. It's just a graphic organizer. And that is actually in the back of their student book. That can be taken out and used on the foldable page inside of this. Okay, I'm going to go over one page. I then have what's my vocabulary for this lesson. We always introduce a study skill. What do you already know about percents? What I know, what I want to find out. When will I ever use this? And so there's a video that goes along with this. This one is amusement park prices, and it talks about using percents. And then I'm going to click over one more page, and then I have an Are You Ready? And this is just a quick check for you as the teacher for this chapter. These are looking at prerequisite skills that they would need to have in order to be successful in the chapter they're in. Now, one other thing I want to point out to you about your ebook. When either you or your students are inside of this, like I'm on the page here and it says, oh, there's a video here. Where do I find that video? Well, you can actually find it in a number of places, but one of the things I want to show you on the screen is you're going to notice at the bottom of the page, right below it, you have a variety of different icons down here. I have vocabulary. The play button means I have some videos or animations. I then have my e-toolkit. I have a self-check. That's my Are You Ready? I have some supplemental handouts, and this would be any additional resources that exist. And when you click on one of these, let's say I want to play the video. When I click on the watch button, it takes me to my resources where that video is. And then I can just click on it with my class. It will go whole screen if I want to use it. I can hit play and then play that video. Okay. So I'm not going to take the time to do that because we have limited time today, but you're going to notice I'm in chapter 2 in the chapter overview, and it brought that up. Now it always opens in a new tab. So if you close that, you're right back in the ebook where you started from. So these buttons down below for you and your student bring up the resources that go with the current part of the lesson you're in. So this one, I was looking at the video, it had that resource there. So in the opening of the chapter, you're always going to have some of the background information. What do you know? When you're going to use this? And then you're going to see the Are You Ready? I do strongly suggest that you do the Are You Ready? Because it will help you understand the prerequisite skills your students need. And if they don't understand, we have support resources in the program. Now, what I'm going to do really quick, I'm just going to flip through a few pages because you're going to notice in Glencoe Math, the inquiry labs are going to be a unique color. So it's this purplish color. If I scroll down, I'm going to see that I have one or more hands-on activities. Remember, the idea behind this is to help students deal with conceptual understanding. So how are percent diagrams used to solve real world problems? So it's going to go in. I'll start with activity 1. If I scroll over, I have activity 2. So these are kind of the gradual release model. We're going to look at one. We're kind of going to give you some background on one, and then you're going to investigate. So you're going to work with a partner and use bar diagrams to solve each problem. Okay. I scroll ahead one more page, analyze and reflect, and then create. So they're going to do some mathematical modeling here with these resources. But you're going to notice again, I actually have some different tools now down here. I still have vocabulary. I still have my e-toolkit, some more. I have a web sketch that goes with this lesson. I have a video to animation to watch. I've got a personal tutor that actually is works through the problem with me. I've got a self-check for this lesson, and I've got my homework helper right here. And when I say homework helper, I'll kind of show you that in a minute in the regular lesson. I'm going to go back one page, and let's click open that web sketch. There's my Sketchpad resources, and there's some software that I can download to actually let me use those resources as well. But it's a great mathematical modeling tool. And then one other I'm going to jump into before I leave this. Often when you're in the modeling pieces of the activities, you may want to use the e-toolkit. And so you're going to see I have 2 different ones. I have virtual manipulatives, and then over here, I have my grade 7 HTML toolkit. So I'm going to click open the virtual manipulatives first. Let that load. By the way, you or your students can actually use this anytime that you want to use it. And you're going to notice right at the top, it says select grade. And when I click this open, I can scroll down. This one goes all the way through 8th grade. Okay. You can use any grade level you want, but if I click into 7th grade where I'm at, you're going to have 2 categories, backgrounds and manipulatives. I'm going to open backgrounds up, and I have work maps, and you have a whole series of these. So I want a centimeter grid, I want a coordinate grid, I want an equation chart, isometric grid, I want a product mat, I want a 1/4 inch grid, I want a square one. You've got a whole variety of different pieces that you could use. So I'm going to click on coordinate grid, and that's exactly what I have then, is it pulls my coordinate grid up for me. Now let me move my control panel. You're going to notice I have my trash can right here, so I can grab it. I can clear my screen when I need to and use that. And then under manipulatives, when I open my manipulatives up, algebra tiles, base 10 blocks, currency, geobands. So I mean, if I click that one open, here's my geo board that I can bring over on top of here, and then actually use my rubber bands and bring them onto the screen. And then I can manipulate them. Okay, so that's what we mean by the e-toolkit. The second one you're going to see is for every grade level, we also include the high school version. And so this has a different series of tools that are built in. So I'm going to see my protractor, my calculator. If I click on the plus sign, it's going to bring up additional tools that I could use for algebra, geometry, number sense, statistics and probability, and graphing. So if I click on graphing, you're going to notice all the options that I get, but really, really helpful for you to be able to use in modeling the mathematics. Now, when it directly goes to a part of the program that I'm working with, you're going to see then down below the symbol for the e-toolkit, which are these 3 shapes. When I click ahead one page, you're going to see I'm on a lesson page now, kind of a traditional with the blue band. Remember, the inquiry lessons are the purple. This is going to be the blue. You're going to see your real world link and your essential question for the lesson. When they do the real world link, it's actually going to ask them, what mathematical practices did you use? This is a great way to reinforce the content. And you're going to notice I, again, have a variety of tools that are available for me. So I have my web sketch, That's available on my Sketchpad and the download instructions that go along with that. I have a personal tutor. And when I click that open, I have actually 3 of them in this lesson. The personal tutor is simply a teacher describing a problem for the students, like the problem they're working with. Those go all the way through K-12. So just make sure, very, very useful. And then I'm going to go over a little bit. So I start out with that real world link. Now we go into the actual teaching part of this. So find the percent of a number. I've got some examples. You're going to know the little personal tutor symbol right by example means there's a tutor that goes along with this. This kind of highlights how the work is done for them, and you're sharing that with them as a class. Use percents greater than 100%. They have a little check that goes along with that. And here's the example we worked through. Now, when you get into the practice, you're going to notice guided practice. That's that gradual release model. Independent practice, we're going to highlight some of the mathematical practices on some of the higher order thinking problems. The other thing I want you to note right here is the little purplish red house next to this problem. And if I zoom in on that, let me zoom in just a little bit. This is what I mean by the red house right here for number 5. And what that does, it goes with the red house at the bottom, which is the e-help. And that actually fully works that problem out for the student. So you notice it's not very many that have the red house, but some do, because if they need extra help, they can click in and see how that problem is solved. I have some of my hot problems, which are my critical thinking DOK level 3 kinds of problems. And then, if you need it, already in the book is extra practice. So that's kind of more of traditional lesson, that guided, independent, and extra practice along with those hot problems. And one of the beautiful things some of you teachers will really, really like is if I'm on this page and we were going over it in class and they've already done their homework. Down at the bottom, you have a little answer on off button. If you click that, it actually brings up the answers for those problems, and then you can click it and it's gone. And I think for some of you, you could probably see how useful that would be if you're going over work in class. Unfortunately, your students do not have that button. I know they would love to, but they don't have that one. We thought it'd be better if they actually had to work the problems out. Let me shrink back down to the full page. Let me do one. Yeah. Okay. So that's the traditional lesson. And if you remember when we were looking at that, it's got the blue band across the top. The inquiry lesson had the purple band. And then I'm going to jump ahead. So we looked at and then you get to a problem-solving investigation. There is one of these in the middle of every lesson. It's going to have this green band determining reasonable answers. And if I look down, it really is getting students in the mindset to independently solve problems on their own. So we'll always start out with one that's kind of guided: understand, plan, solve, and check. Okay, that's the strategy we're going to use. If I click over on the page, okay, this one is really laid out for them. This is the model they're going to walk through, so the guided. And then they have 3, 4, and 5, and 6 that they're going to do independently using the strategy. So notice here, case 1, it's that gradual release model. It's already worked out for them. They can see how the math was done. When they get to case 2, kind of has some scaffolding built in. And then I have 4 I'm going to do independently. And then finally, I'm going to go to one last lesson. If I worked myself all the way through the chapter, I would have done the mid-unit, mid-chapter check. After I've done this, it could be print, paper, or digital. I would then go through the rest of my lessons. And then at the end of this chapter, I'm going to find this 21st century career. And it will always be different. There are a variety of careers that use a different level of education required. There is work they need to do with that, and there is an optional career project as part of that lesson. Then I come to my chapter review. I'm going to click over just a bit, back up. Key concepts and problems. Power up. This is a performance task, but it's a really, really nice, helpful piece along with that. And then finally, my reflect. And if I would like to, there's a hands-on chapter project where they have to use some math. Again, it can be used kind of as a performance task, but the one on the previous page is really meant to be the performance task. And that wraps up a chapter. And then I go on to the next unit. Now, in the unit wrap up, they are going to do some reflection and so on in that. What I want to do really quick, I'm going to switch over to algebra. I'm going to go into this, and algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, pre-calculus would all be very similar in the way that they look. Oh, I was in too long. Oh, go out here. There we go. It's loading up. Now, high school math is going to be a hardbound book. You're going to see the technology working exactly the same way. And you're going to notice the dashboard looks exactly the same as what we were just looking at. Same materials on here. Really quick, I'm going to click into the ebook. And I'm just going to point out a couple things to you. Everything we looked at, you're going to notice my audio icons down here. If I look, I'm in a lesson. So let's get ready for the chapter, the same drop-down menu. And when I open up, you're going to see one thing about the high school courses, Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and Pre-Calculus. All of them are going to have a chapter 0. Especially this year, I strongly recommend you do chapter 0. It's a refresher on a lot of the topics that they need for algebra. Let's get started. Pretest, real numbers, operations, adding, subtracting, rational numbers. These are review topics, but really helpful for them to be able to use as they work their way through. And then when I open up a lesson, you're going to see, okay, getting ready for chapter 1. That's looking again at prerequisite skills for this chapter. I've got my regular lessons. I've got an algebra lab, just like we had the inquiry labs, which is called an extend activity, my mid-chapter quiz. I have another extend activity down here, my study guide, practice test, performance task, preparing for assessment. So in a chapter, you're going to see 2 different types of lessons, the extension lessons, which are the lab or inquiry pieces, and then your regular teaching lessons. So I just want to click into a couple of things here, because this isn't, that part's not different. So let's close that up. You are going to notice some tools along the top. Students can highlight in their book. They can draw on it with the pen. They can leave sticky notes in their book, or they can circle, underline, or box things. And when they click on the tool, it gives them the option of what they want to do. So I can come over here and put my box in. Oh, I hit my note instead. Okay, so it had a note on this page. I can determine which box I want to use. It's giving me a hard time right now. But if I go to my pen tool, you know, I can draw on the page, and you can do that as a teacher. It will save those marks for you, and then you can also erase them. I mean, you can take the eraser and the student can remove this work just by clicking on it, okay? If I back up just a little bit, I'm not going to spend long on this, but this is the beginning of the chapter, what we've already studied, what we're studying now, why we're studying it. It's kind of like that real life example. Some of the tools that are available for me online that I will want to be aware of for this one. What's my potential chapter project? It mentions Alex because Alex goes along with this program. If you don't have Alex, I would strongly suggest that you talk to your local sales account person or your implementation specialist. It is an adaptive learning system that students work on independently, but has about 20 years of research behind helping students really learn missing gaps provides help on what they're currently doing or lets them accelerate in their journey. Then I have getting ready for the chapter, some of the concepts that I've done before that are important in what I'm doing now. So then we go into a regular lesson, then, now, and why. That's always going to be with every lesson. What mathematical vocabulary and what mathematical practice are we highlighting? So we're going to get into variables and expressions, and this is going to look very familiar, but you will notice with the example problem, I have a personal tutor right here, and I'm going to find that personal tutor right down in the bottom of the box. If I click over one page, here's some of my examples. Check your understanding. There's practice and problem solving and a variety of questions for you, and then some preparing for assessment. If I go over then, I'm in lesson number 2. So you're going to feel that familiar thread as you get used to it, but always the then, now, and why. I always hated when students ask me why we have to learn this. Okay. And then my examples with my personal tutors, just remember the doc down below is where you find all of those resources, and they mean exactly the same thing in high school math as they do in middle school math. Now, I'm going to stop just for a second, and we're going to go into some of the digital tools. Great. Okay, if you do have questions, you can type them in. We will try to get to as many of them at the end as we can. But I'm going to close out of the student book and leave that. Now, if I were to click into the ebook, I just want to highlight this for you. Wherever I was at, it's going to bring me right back to that same place until I change it. So that's the student book, very useful. If you are jotting things down, one other thing to jot down, there is an app for this, a mobile app. It is called Connect Ed Mobile. So if you go into the Google Play Store, if you go into the iOS store or the Apple store, just search McGraw Hill Connect Ed Mobile. You'll find the app. Students can download it. The app is free. They can use their same username and login that they use on the digital on a computer to log into the app and then use the ebook offline. They can actually have offline access to it. Really, really nice tool. I'm going to go back to my homepage, and we're going to spend the last 20 minutes going through some of the resources you have. So the first thing I'm going to show you, 2 ways to find everything. Oh, you know what? I want to get out of this and go back to the teacher side though. So I'm going to click over here. Let's get out of the ebook. On my digital now, a couple things I want you to notice. If I click open on my menu as a teacher, I'm only going to go like 3 or 4 things here with you real quickly. First one is my resources. And if I click this open, it just will let me find anything in the program quickly. So what I mean by quickly, I can do a lesson search. So if I'm in chapter 2, lesson 1, or let's say we're in a different chapter, let's say we're in chapter 5 on expressions, and I want to see all the resources to support me. Now, one of the things you're going to see right here on the overall level, here's my quick review math handbook. This is a great piece with all the precursor skills. Here's my quick review skill builder that I can go into. I can look at all of the different resources that go along with this chapter. Here's the little graphic organizer, the graphic piece that's in their chapter, and here's the video that goes along with it. Now at the bottom of this page, this is just a really small handy hint that I like to do. You're seeing 12 things. You're going to notice there's multiple pages. You can switch this up to 48. So you can just scroll down the whole page. Okay, and look, so here's my diagnostic test. Here's my are you ready? Okay, different versions of that with my answer keys, my self-check, my pre-test, my differentiated activity. Okay, for on level, below level, and above level. My response to intervention, which is a really nice piece already built in for the topics in this chapter, and some professional development for you on these topics, along with some real world problem solving. There's also then, if I go over one page, okay, a couple of some more extra tools that are built in here for you to be able to use. Okay, so some really, really nice resources for you. One of the things I'm going to recommend, regardless of the grade level you teach, go in here, click Open Resources, go to any chapter, preferably the one you're going to teach, click on that chapter, pick the chapter overview, and look at every resource that's in here. If you do that, you will get a really good feeling for the resources or depth of resources we built in the program. The other thing I would do then is click into a lesson and then look at all of the resources available for that lesson. Okay, there's a reteaching piece that's already built in for you, a skill practice, homework practice, okay, a whole series of resources along with the personal tutors, the web sketch, my e-solutions manual, okay, to support you. My EL activity guide, some of these things are going to be great for every student because even if they're an English language first student, they're still learning mathematical language. Now, the other thing you can do is depends what you're looking for. If I'm only looking for personal tutors, once I've gone to that chapter and lesson, I can click on tutor and it will filter for me only the personal tutors for this chapter. Okay. If I go back and I click on all resources, I'm going to see all resources again. So I see my toolkits, you know, my worksheets, but anything that you want to look at, you can pull up from this menu. You can also search it by keyword. And then when you have these up, what can you do with them? Well, even like this personal tutor right here, I'm going to click on that. And there's a couple things I can do. If I find something I really like and I want to get back to it. So let me go back here just a second. Let's say it's my e-solutions manual. And that's one of my favorites. I'm going to click on it and it gives it a yellow star. And now I can find it right here. I'm going to go back to all resources. The other thing you can do, and this is where I'm going to go to my personal tutors. I can click here. And on any resource, you're going to have this little wheel right here. I call it a cogwheel. If you, and I would jot this down, by the way, it's really important. If I click on the cogwheel for any resource, you're going to notice, open it. What are the details? Are there standards attached to it? Share it with Google Classroom and assign this resource. I'm going to click on assign. This is the normal assignment page. So I'm going to click in here. This is my personal tutor for today. Call it anything I want, whatever instructions I want in here, I can type in. You can actually create a discussion thread to go along with it, just like you have in an online class where students can post. So I can decide if I want to do that. I'm going to create it and I want it moderated. And all that means is I have to approve it before the students' answers go live. The resources attached, start date, due date, expiration date. Expiration date means I would allow late work. I can give them, instead of 9/1, I'm going to actually give them till the 6th to get this turned in. And then I can check all students, or I could check one student at a time to determine who gets it. And when I get done with all that and look at it, I go back up to the top and I say assign. Okay. And what that's done then is, click assign and let's go back. There we go. So I'm back in my resources now. But any resource can be assigned out by clicking that wheel and then clicking assign. So we went over here. This is all of my resources for the whole program going in there. Okay, we're going to go down and look at a couple other of these in the last few minutes. The second one I'm going to look at is plan and present. When I click on plan and present, these are all the teacher edition notes and all my resources kind of in a planner. So if I go here and I look at this chapter 9, I'm going to go to chapter 3 on integers. And this is the other place to go take a look. Go to plan and present, click on a chapter, and then, you know, look at the different resources that are built in. So if I go to chapter overview, you're going to notice here's my pacing for this. Here's my quick review resources. And even right over here, you notice I've got a star by this one. So it's in my favorites. Also from right here, I can assign this resource. This one's also downloadable. So you can download that to support your students. Underneath, what's the focus of the math? What are the mathematical practices? What's the essential question? What's my coherence? All the way through. This works exactly the same way for high school math. What's my vocabulary? How am I going to launch the chapter? Where's my are you ready? Okay, so my are you ready check in paper is right here. Kind of highlights what skills we're looking at associated with what standard. I can then look at my intervention. Okay, and these resources are built in already. So I can look at what intervention resources are available for tier 1 or tier 2, okay, that are available for the program. If I then go to a lesson, let's go on adding integers. And let me shrink that one. You're going to see my standards, launch the lesson, teach the concept, practice and apply, additional activities for differentiation, assessment, and my Sketchpad resources down at the bottom. Now, when I go into, let's say, teach the concept, any resource that I might need is right here. And again, you can do the same thing. This one's starred, so it's in my favorite folder, but I can also click here and assign it out or share it with Google Classroom. So the big difference, the resources right here are just that. It's only the resources. Plan and present are all my planning tools that go along with it. So I can't stress enough, the best way to do this is get in and play with it. So go to plan and present, close my menu, click here, pick a chapter, go to the chapter opener, go to a lesson, look at every resource, go down to the bottom and look at the other pieces. Now, you're going to notice when I'm looking at this, we had talked about the calendar. I can say, add this to my calendar, and I want to add this to this class for today. And I'm going to say, okay. I want to go back to my dashboard for a minute. And you're going to see today, I have lesson 2 on adding integers, and I have a presentation available for that. So I'm going to click on that. That's supposed to be replaced. Let me check on that one. Okay. So we get rid of that flash piece and check on that, but you should have a presentation that goes along with it, not in on Flash. You're going to see now I've got a couple assignments I assigned out. I assigned that personal tutor out. And if I wanted to look at those assignments, what would I do? I would go right to my assignment tracker. In my menu, I would see the assignment. I could look at the details of this assignment and actually edit it if I needed to. Okay. So here's my instructions. Here's the date. Do I want to edit it? Do I edit it? Do I want to copy it to another class? Here's the resource. And then I can actually look at the students to see if they've submitted work, what's going on. If they've submitted it, I can actually click on it and look at it. So just depending what it is. And then in the last few minutes, I want to go 2 other places just really quickly. So we've looked at resources, assignment tracker, plan and present. Let's go to assessment. Now you're going to notice when I open this up, I've got all my chapters listed. So if I just want my paper pencil assessments, I can click right here, like chapter 3. And I can scroll down. Here's my are you ready? Okay. If I scroll down, by the way, there's 3 levels of that, which is why there's 3. Here's my diagnostic test. Here's a pre-test. My chapter quiz, my vocabulary test. And you're going to see with every one of these, you've got in PDF, you've got it in a Word doc format, and you have the answer key right next to it. So if you want to edit the paper pencil one, you could do it right here. So I've got my different forms of my chapter test, my 1A, my approaching level, my 1B, my on level, a 2A, another approaching level, a 2B, another on level. So you'll notice multiple formats, and then here's my performance tasks, okay? All built in. But the one I want to show you really quickly is right up at the top. Here is my online assessment generator. There's a manual right next to it. You'll find it in every chapter, but you can click in anywhere you want to click in on it. I'm going to open this up just for a minute. And it will bring up your assessment pieces. And so like for me, I want to create a new test. I can pick where that test is. This is how I assign it. But if I just want to look at it, you're going to see my accelerated in courses 1, 2, and 3. If I click it open, these are all my question banks. So I've got some tech enhanced items, and then you're going to see every chapter. When I open up a chapter, I've got my questions set. If I open up that question set, I can actually hover over every question and see what the question is. And then if I really want to look at them, I can grab it right here and drag it over onto my workspace. And then work through, let's set this for all questions. Okay. I wouldn't want to use all these. It's got 96 questions in it, but you can go in with any question, you can edit it. And if I click on that, I can edit, delete, or duplicate it. And if I scroll down, I can look at all the different questions that are in here. You see a lot of multiple choice. Now we're getting to open response that they have to work their way through. So it allows you to go in and edit. There is a, let me close this again. Right here, there is a how-to guide on how to use this. We just don't have the time today to go into depth on it. And then finally, one last piece I'm going to show you. By the way, I'm going to click on chapter 5 right here. So anywhere you click into this, you're going to have the e-assessment right at the first tab. Last thing I'm going to show you is LearnSmart. LearnSmart is an adaptive review tool that allows students to go in on their own. You do have to assign it out, but once you've assigned it out, they can go in on their own and actually work through this. So you're going to see when you click on LearnSmart, it comes up. I click on Add Assignment, and it adapts personally for every single student, depending on how they answer the questions. I can do a new assignment or a review assignment. I'm going to click New. I scroll down. You're going to see the different domains: statistics and probability, geometry, expressions and equations, number system, ratio, proportion, and proportional relationships. Now, important thing to note, this isn't meant to be used like, here's the piece for chapter 1. This is the broader review piece, so it's not like homework every day. When I click into ratios and do that one, it's going to let me continue. And then it's going to say, in this ratios, there are 55 out of 55 concepts. Some are in unit rate, some are proportional relationships, some are equations and graphs of those relationships. And then most of these are applications. So you know what? I want to focus in on equations and graphs. So I'm going to uncheck the others. And you can see now the student has 8 concepts. You could also click this open and pick the specific concepts you want to do. And then I can also say, well, I don't really want him to do 8. I can slide my bar and decide how many concepts I want them to do. I'd hit continue. And this is going to give me my page. So this is, let's just call it for the sake of today, equations. Start date. We're going to let them start this today. And they're going to have this particular one for 2 weeks. So let's let them go through the 16th. Oh, not the 16th of, there we go. Let's kind of let them go to the 13th. I can give it to all my students, and then I'm going to assign this. And that will take me back to my assignment center. There's equations. I'm going to click this one open just so you can see what it looks like. Oh, this is going to let me view the reports, but it's not done yet. I'd have to go to the student side to do it. But what I would tell you, go in and preview it and take a look, because you can click in and review that. But it's a really great tool to use. The one caution I would give you is when you're assigning it, make sure you've covered the topic before you assign it out. So in our menu, we've looked at assignment tracker, resources. We've looked at plan and present, assessment, and LearnSmart. So all great tools to help you. And then don't forget the 2 resources are really important: the professional development, and then over here, also your help menu. So going to be great resources to support you in using the program. So we're at time. There are some questions in the chat. We are going to send the recording out for the webinar to everybody who's attended. And then just really quickly, I know this was a speed demonstration today, but really the idea was to help you see everything that's available and then for you to get in and play with it. Okay, Sharice just put in, there are other webinars we're doing if colleagues at your school could use these in different subject areas. Sharice just put the link in. And if you copy that, you could share it with your colleagues. And then Sharice, I'm gonna let you come on back and then kind of wrap things up here.
Thank you, DJ. There was quite a lot to learn from this session. Like you covered a lot in an hour, I know, and there might be questions for our audience. They might want to come back. So I just want to remind you, we do have a place where you can get in touch with our implementation team. Let me just share back my slides perhaps, or I can just drop the link in the chat box.
Nope. Let me stop sharing. Go ahead.
Yes. So, and yes, as DJ also mentioned, we do have our webinar series that we're running. So tomorrow we are going to cover Glencoe science. If that is something you would be interested in, or your colleagues or anyone you know in your school, please let them know, because I've just dropped the link in the chat box. So feel free to share that with your colleagues, your peers, other teachers. We just want to make sure we are here to help you with any questions you have, or support you during this back to school period, basically. And up on your screen, you can see, oh God, my screen stopped.
We can see it on the screen. The
Oh, great, gone again. Yeah, so I just want to share, you can get in touch with us on our social channels, or you can email us from Mia_MH_Education. I'm just going to drop that link to our implementation team. So even if you don't have a question right now, but if you come up with a question later on, we're more than happy to help you. So this is the link that you can reach out to us. Make sure you have that down. We will send the recording of this webinar. I know there was a lot to take in, and you might want to go back here and get back. So you can do that at your own time. We will share the recording with you. Don't worry about that. And also you will get the certificate for this webinar as well. Unless there is any other questions, we can wrap up. We're very glad you found it informative. And there you go. So it's Mia_implementation@mheducation.com. And you can stay connected on our social channels as well, Mia_implementation.com. And just to remind you, we do have our chat. We do have our link for tomorrow. In case those of you who have missed, you can have a look at that as well. I'll drop the link again so you have not missed that over. So we have a couple of webinars. We actually just have 2 remaining now. We've covered the series, but you can always watch back the recordings because we do have them, and we were going to post them as well. So you can look back at wonders, you can look back at others. You're very welcome. Thank you so much. This is the registration link for Glencoe Science, and we do have an advanced placement as well. You're very welcome, Sahar. Thank you for joining us. Have a fantastic year, and we're happy to help if you have any questions or anything later on. Thank you. Have a great year. Thank you, DJ.
Thank you, Sharice. Have a great day. Guys, have a great afternoon. Thank you for joining and spending the hour with us.
Thank you. Bye.